Thank you for taking the time to view this tutorial on preservation. This presentation will highlight where to find preservation documents on Minnesota Housing's website, details regarding the pre-application, risk of loss thresholds, other preservation criteria, project types, and dual applications. The preservation page on the Minnesota Housing website contains essential information needed to meet the preservation application requirements. From Minnesota Housing's homepage and within the Multifamily Rental Partners column on the right side of the screen, select Funding. Once on the Funding tab, select Preservation. The preservation page contains information on the pre-application, as well as links to the risk of loss workbooks and the preservation geographic priority area maps. If you are seeking 9% credits for preservation, a mandatory pre-application and technical assistance meeting are required to be completed by May 2nd. Please contact the agency as soon as possible if you haven't already. The preservation page on the Minnesota Housing website contains a link for requesting the technical assistance meeting, as well as links to all the pre-application materials. This year, the pre-application must be submitted in its entirety. Last year, applicants submitted materials on a rolling basis, which created confusion and additional work. However, applicants are encouraged to share some materials, such as the project workbook or risk of loss spreadsheets, with the assigned underwriter prior to the technical assistance meeting, so that agency staff can provide initial feedback on whether the project meets the criteria for preservation points. Following the technical assistance meeting and pre-application submission, the agency will issue a preliminary letter of determination regarding the project's eligibility for preservation points. The applicant does not need to resubmit the preservation documentation with the June RFP full application. Only the agency letter must be submitted. An applicant will not be eligible to claim preservation points on a 9% tax credit application unless they have received a preliminary determination letter which states the project is eligible to claim preservation points. Preservation applications are evaluated on the following criteria. These criteria are the same for both tax credits and deferred funding applications. Does the project meet one of 3 risk of loss thresholds? I will review the risk of loss thresholds on the next slide. Is the project located in a preservation geographic priority area? Have 15 years passed since the initial project closing or last placed in service date for tax credits? What is the preservation project type? Is it existing federal assistance or critical affordable units? These criteria and the documentation requirements can be found on the HTC self-scoring worksheet and deferred priority checklist on the Multifamily Common Application page of the website. There are help texts for both of these documents. We strongly encourage all preservation applicants, even those not required to submit a pre-application, to meet with agency staff given the various criteria that must be met. The risk of loss thresholds remain the same as last year. They are market conversion, critical physical needs, and diminished owner capacity. One of the 3 thresholds must be met for a property to be considered eligible for preservation funding. Market conversion risk is when the property may be converted to market rate within the next 5 years, given the property's physical condition and the local housing market. This is evidenced by the 3-year conversion model and other documentation. The critical physical needs risk is when housing assistance is at risk because the cost to address the property's existing critical needs exceeds the amount of existing reserves by more than $5,000 per unit. This is evidenced by the 3-year capital needs model and other documentation. Diminished ownership capacity risk is when the housing and federal assistance are at risk given a decline in the capacity of the current owner to maintain the housing as decent, safe, and sanitary. An ownership transfer is required. This is evidenced by documentation of bankruptcy, insolvency, unpaid taxes and utilities, and other adverse conditions. There are 2 additional criteria that apply to any project seeking preservation funding. First is the preservation geographic priority areas. These are areas in which there is job growth, household growth, or a large affordable housing gap. Job growth information was updated in January of 2016. The preservation page contains a link to the statewide maps of the priority areas. Individual project addresses can be mapped using the agency's community profiles, an interactive mapping tool found on the agency's website. The second is the 15-year threshold. 15 years must have passed since the initial loan closing or most recent tax credit placed in service date. Preservation has two project type categories. The first is federally assisted and is defined as any project receiving project-based rental assistance, operating subsidy, or mortgage interest reduction under HUD, Rural Development, NAHASDA, or other program. The program must not be scheduled to sunset or expire. The second category is critical affordable units, which are defined as any housing with a current recorded deed restriction or income restriction at or below the greater of 80% of statewide area median income or area median income. This includes existing tax credit units, developments with federal assistance that are not included under federally assisted, and other programs with restrictions limiting income and rents. Additionally, to receive points, critical affordable units must meet at least three other selection priorities: economic integration, location efficiency, workforce housing communities, qualified census tracts, and community revitalization. Such developments must also claim and be eligible under Serves Lowest Income Tenants, Rent Reduction, Priority Option 1 or 2. These priorities are found on the HTC self-scoring worksheet and deferred priority checklist. Critical affordable units may also receive points for funder collaboration, which acknowledges a commitment of new funding or a modification of debt by an existing project funder prior to the June RFP deadline. Funder collaboration is not part of the pre-application. A dual application is an application submitted with two financial structures and corresponding funding requests. One of those structures includes 9% credits. A dual application is required for any project with 40 or more units that is seeking preservation points for a 9% tax credit application. A dual application may be required for other preservation projects with 40 or more units. Please refer to the Common Application Checklist Help Text, which will be released on April 18th. Thank you for taking the time to watch this tutorial on preservation. For more information, please visit our website or contact me at the email address or phone number listed on the screen.